They always told me that old houses in Fes El Bali should never be bought in a hurry. My grandfather used to say, ask who built it. Ask what was there before. In this city, some walls have heard more Quran than others, and some walls have heard things you don't want to know. I never really took that seriously. I was born in Rabi, the modern part of Morocco, with straight avenues and glass cafes and people who laugh at stories of jinn and ghosts. So when my father told me we were finally going to inherit my great-uncle's house in the Fes Medina, I pictured a nice, old riad we could turn into a guest house or Airbnb. I didn't know we were inheriting a problem. The first time I saw the house, it was late afternoon. We had walked for almost 20 minutes through the labyrinth of Fes narrow alleys, blue doors, cats sleeping on steps, the smell of leather and spices fading the deeper we went in. The GPS was useless. Only my father and the man from the Nota knew the way. Finally, we stopped in front of a very ordinary wooden door, dark brown, with an old brass knocker in the shape of a hand. Above it, a small window with bent iron bars looked down onto the alley like a tired, half-closed eye. That's it, my father said. Darcy Abdelkader. The door opened with a complaining creak. Inside, a cool darkness swallowed us. The smell hit me immediately. Damp plaster, old wood, something like dust mixed with something sour. The ground floor was typical. A small entrance, then a central courtyard with faded zellige tiles and an empty fountain in the middle. 4 rooms opened around it. Light poured from the open sky above, but everything still felt grey and tired, like the house had forgotten what laughter sounded like. Your great-uncle lived here alone the last years, my father said. They say he refused to rent the top floor, even when he needed money. Why? I asked. My father paused. They say he heard things, but he was old. Maybe it was just loneliness, he added quickly, waving it away. That was the first red flag. The house had 3 levels: ground floor, kitchen, small salon, storage. First floor, 2 bedrooms and a bigger salon with carved plaster and old cracked paintings. And the top floor, a terrace and a single locked room at the very back. The room above the alley. Of course, that was the one that attracted me the most. When I asked for the key, my father checked his pockets, frowned, and said maybe the notaire didn't give him that one. He looked genuinely annoyed, not scared, but still, how do you misplace only one key? What was that room used for? I asked. Nothing, he answered too fast. It's always been closed. Forget it for now. We have enough to clean. Another red flag. We stayed in Fes for a week to start cleaning and fixing things. My parents slept in the first floor bedroom and I took the ground floor room near the entrance because it was less dusty and easier to air. The second night I started hearing it. At first I thought it was just the Medina being noisy. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up because I needed the bathroom. The house was silent. Even the neighborhood dogs had shut up. As I came back to bed, I heard it shuff, shuff, shuff. Soft, dragging steps above me. Slow, deliberate, one after the other. Across the ceiling of my room, I froze. The room above mine on the first floor was empty. I had seen it myself. We used it to stack old carpets that day. Nobody was sleeping there. The steps moved from one side of the ceiling to the other, then stopped exactly above the doorway as if whoever or whatever was walking had stopped to listen. I stood in the middle of my room, heart pounding, staring at the plaster as if it would turn transparent. Bismillah, I whispered. The word felt small in my mouth. After a long, breathless minute, I heard the steps again, this time, moving away, toward the staircase that led up to the locked room on the terrace. I told myself it could be a cat, rat, old beams settling, anything rational. The next morning over breakfast, I mentioned it in a casual tone. My mother stopped pouring the mint tea. You heard it too? She asked too quickly. Too, I repeated. She looked at my father. He frowned and said, it's an old house. It makes noises. Don't start with stories. But he wouldn't look me in the eyes. By the 4th night I had convinced myself I was overreacting. We had spent the day painting the salon, laughing at how bad we were with rollers, listening to old Rai songs on my phone. Everything felt normal, almost fun. That night, I fell asleep faster. I woke up at 3:07 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I saw it on my phone when the screen lit up on its own. Battery low, it said. I put it back down and tried to close my eyes again. That's when I noticed the light. A faint, cold glow was seeping through the crack under my bedroom door. Bluish, not like the warm yellow of the stairlight we used. It pulsed slowly, like breathing. I sat up in bed, listening. Silence. Then a soft sound. Tap, tap, like bare feet stepping on tile. The light under the door flickered slightly with each step. My mouth went dry. Against all logic, I climbed out of bed and tiptoed toward the door. My hand was shaking as I reached for the handle. I cracked it open just enough to see into the courtyard. At first, I thought I was dreaming. There, in the middle of the courtyard next to the dry fountain, stood a boy. He looked about 11 or 12. He wore a long white jellaba that was too big for him, the sleeves hanging past his hands. His feet were bare on the cold tiles. He was glowing, not like a lamp or a phone screen, more like the way the moon glows through fog. A soft pale light surrounded him, enough to paint the fountain and tiles in a ghostly sheen. He had his back to me, head tilted up, staring at the second floor. Hey, I whispered, my voice sounding unreal in the silence. Who are you? Slowly, he turned his head. Even before I saw his face properly, every hair on my body stood up. His eyes were milk-white, no iris, no pupil, just two opaque moons. His skin had the flat tone of wet paper. His mouth was small, colorless, and there was a faint dark smear on his neck, like an old bruise or fingers. He looked at me as if he had been waiting for me to open the door. My hand flew to the light switch by instinct. I slammed it up. The courtyard exploded in harsh yellow light. The boy vanished. No slow fade, no walking away, just gone. The fountain was there. The tiles were there. The shadow of the wooden balcony was there. He was not. I must have made a sound, because seconds later my father's voice came from the staircase. Yusef, what's wrong? I was shaking too much to answer properly. I saw there was a boy. We searched every room, every corner, even the roof. Every door was locked from the inside. The main door still bolted. Nobody could have entered or left. It's the fatigue, my father said finally, with that firm tone Moroccans use when they want to close a subject. Paint fumes, lack of sleep. Enough. Go back to bed. The next day I couldn't stop staring at the door to the top floor room. It was old, made of dark wood, with a rusted iron lock. At lunch I asked directly, why is that room locked? Really? My father's spoon paused over his plate. It's storage, junk, dangerous floorboards, he said. I pushed. Was that where Si Abdelkader died? Silence. My father's jaw tightened. He died in his bed, he said. Downstairs. Don't make up stories. But the way he said it told me there it was. Again that feeling that adults weren't telling the whole truth. That night, the steps above my room came back louder. Shuff, 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 walking in a slow, dragging circle. On our 6th night in the house, something changed. We were leaving the next day. I left my bedroom door slightly open, hoping the light from the corridor would make me feel less watched. At around 4:30 a.m., just before Fajr, I woke up to a sound. It was Quran, a child's voice, soft and clear, reciting Surat Al-Falaq and An-Nas, the last surahs we use for protection. Kul udubi rabbil falak. Min shari mahalak. The voice came from above, from the locked room on the terrace. It wasn't coming from a phone or a radio. It had that resonant, alive quality. I slipped out of bed and climbed the stairs, the tiles icy under my feet, following the sound. It was clearer now, coming from above my head. Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, malikin nas. I stood at the bottom of the final staircase, the one that led to the terrace and the locked room. The more I climbed, the colder it got. At the door itself, the recitation stopped. Silence crashed over the terrace. I lifted my hand and knocked on the wood. No answer. I leaned my forehead gently against the door, and in that moment, with my skin touching the old wood, I heard it, a whisper, from the other side. Too soft to make out words, but unmistakably a whisper, and unmistakably right next to my ear. I jumped back, almost tripping on the stairs, and ran down. As I hit the first floor landing, the Adhan of Fajr started from the nearby mosque. Allahu Akbar. The atmosphere in the house changed instantly. The weight lifted. Later that morning, as we were packing, an old neighbor came by. At one point, he looked up toward the terrace and said quietly, "Did he disturb you?" My father stiffened. Who? He asked. The neighbor lifted his chin toward the locked room. Him, he said simply. My father murmured, "We don't believe in these things." The neighbor smiled without humor. Si Abdelkader thought the same, until his grandson died in that room. My head snapped up. What? I said. The man looked at me. You are the Rabati boy. Yes, you saw him. I admitted I saw a boy in the courtyard. The neighbor nodded slowly. His name was Yasin, he said. He used to spend summers here. One year they found him hanging from the iron bars of that window, up there. He pointed to the small barred window. The family said it was an accident. Police wrote suicide. But in the Medina we say, something called him Atadat. Si Abdelkader refused to open that room again. He heard him reciting Quran at night, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. My father interrupted sharply. Enough, he said. The neighbor shrugged. I told you before not to let your son sleep on the ground floor alone. He said to my father, these old houses keep what happens inside them. We went back to Rabi that afternoon. The highway, the gas stations, it all felt fake. Life was supposed to go on, and it did. Mostly. But some things changed. For one, I stopped laughing at jinn stories. And the worst was the sound that followed me home, not every night, not even every week. But sometimes at 3:07 a.m., I would wake up in my bed in Rabi in a building full of people. I would stare at the ceiling, telling myself nothing was there. And then I would hear it shuff soft, dragging steps, right above my head. We live on the top floor. There is no apartment above us, just the roof. And in those moments I remembered the neighbor's words. These old houses keep what happens inside them, good and bad. And I wonder, when we took the keys, did we leave something behind in that locked room in Fes? Or did we bring it with us? Because sometimes, when I close my eyes and try to sleep, I hear a child's voice, somewhere just beyond the wall, reciting Kul Udubi Rabbi Min Shari Mahalak. And right after the last verse, I hear a soft, breathy laugh.